sum total of our past experiences, circumstances, and sociological constructs.
right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's why you have a God of your understanding, you have a God of your understanding, I have a God of my understanding. And so our impact matters because we're forming that future citizen, that future husband, that future wife. That's part of what our calling is, which is why I say to parents all the time, and specifically CEOs and entrepreneurs, stop cheating on your family with your work. You're committing adultery. No, I'm not. I don't have another woman. No, but you got to work, and that gets all your time, energy, talent, intimacy. It's all there, right? Your family deserves more than that.
Welcome to the Full Field Podcast with your host, Matt Tack.
Alfred Alessi.
What's up, baby?
What's up, man?
And we got a special guest on here today. We got Doc Ferris, one of my best friends from the Sacred CEO. He's rolling out this program. This is amazing. We're going to dive right in and get into it, but we want to give you the background. But let me tell you a little bit about Doc. Doc is an international speaker. He's obviously the president and the CEO of the Sacred CEO, where he comes in and really galvanizes spirit-led platforms within large organizations for the kingdom's purpose. So he comes in there and he cultivates that community and really makes it kingdom-focused. And then, not only that, he is a husband and of 4 kids.
I'm actually a dad of 4 kids. I didn't marry my kid.
Oh, you didn't marry your kid? Yeah. We probably should get that right. Yeah.
America.
But he is a husband to Trish Ferris, which is an animal. Actually, in the show notes, we'll show she actually runs Spread Oaks Farms, which we have an affiliate link, so we're going to drop that. She is the president of that organization. And then we have Doc on here today, baby. What's up?
What's up, man?
Dude,
Glad to be
I'm
here.
so excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
Pleasure to meet you, man.
Yeah, it's great meeting you, man. Yeah.
It's always cool to see somebody like online. Like I watch the podcast, and I'm like, when he walks, I'm like, wait, I know that guy. We know each other. No, I've only seen you on camera. Like,
Yeah.
So, it's great to be in person.
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah.
Every day, apparently. You know, we're just posting out feeds. Yeah, I think every morning.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the beauty about social media too, is that like every morning, I think you are probably the only person that I put notifications on when things pop up. And so like every morning, Doc added to a story, and I'm like, all right. So I thank you literally every morning, bro. I love you.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into the Sacred CEO. It's absolutely going to revolutionize how we operate within what we consider the secular environment. But at the end of the day, everything's sacred, as you say. You're bringing that marketplace, you're bringing the sacredness and how we are going to propel the marketplace in future years because it is desperately needed. So take us through the Sacred CEO and what your vision is behind it.
Yeah. So, 8 years ago, in my abiding time, I just, the Lord impressed on me these words. He said, you're not going to spend the last half of your life entertaining Christians, but influencing world changers. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, because at the time I was pastoring and there was a lot of cool things going on. Things were happening. But over that span of time, things began to morph, and I just started to really get a great connection with a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs. And here's how it started. A bunch of young guys. I was always impressed with this, by the way. These young guys that were in their 20s making millions of dollars. And I was, as a pastor, I was always enamored by these guys. Just had that business mind. So I started getting these phone calls from these guys, and they were like, hey, someone told me to call you. I'm an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, whatever. I'm making a lot of money. Professionally, I'm crushing it, but my marriage is falling apart, or I'm addicted to porn, or I can't, I'm overweight. I can't eat, whatever. All these things, their personal life was a mess. So this is what they said to me. Can we hire you to be my spiritual mentor? I'm like, I don't know what a spiritual mentor is, but I sure know what hire means. So sure, let's go to work, baby.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll figure out what that means.
Yeah.
So and that just kind of grew and morphed. And 2 years ago, so by the way, backstory of that, it started out as the Warriors, Elite Warriors and Warrior Nation. And we really just started connecting with all of these CEOs from around the country. Of course, our mentor and our great friend Ed Coble, who runs the multi-billion dollar development company, he's known everywhere, right? So he started, we were making connections with him and getting in with guys, and it just really grew and blew from there. So we had 2 years ago, I stepped out of the leadership role at the church. and was kind of wandering around. You ever been in that season where you're like, I don't know what the next move is. I know what I'm not supposed to be doing, but I'm not sure yet what I'm supposed to be doing. Like that, like sort of sojourning season. The Lord not too long ago, again in the abiding time, I heard him say, "You're not done planting churches," and I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that anymore. Like I got out of that. And he said, no, it's not going to look like it used to. You're going to be planting them in the marketplace. The next revival is coming out of the marketplace. We started praying for that whole process, and that's where this whole sacred CEO thing came about. And here's sort of the underlining sort of what would you call this? The vision of it is for a Christian entrepreneur and a Christian CEO, most of their life, when they go to church on Sunday, they're sacred. When they go to work on Monday, they're secular. Yeah, it's like two different worlds. Right. So the idea, the question we asked is, what would it look like if we were to have this kingdom mind shift, where everything they see in their life is sacred? Imagine what their companies would look like. Imagine how they would, handle their jobs. Imagine what the integrity would look like. Imagine how they would treat their employees, and what they, what we could do, not just bring people in to help us move the needle in our company, but what if we saw the people that were in our company as our parishioners, for lack of a better term? Like, these were our church members, right? And we're going to care about their soul as much as we care about them, moving the needle for this company.
That's awesome.
And, it's what's fascinating about this whole thing is when you have this conversation with CEOs who know their calling goes beyond building a real estate company, or goes beyond a nutrition company. They're like, I'm supposed to build this, but I know there's a kingdom calling somewhere in that. When you give them permission to start asking that question, the game starts to change, bro. It starts to change. And then they go, well, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that God's actually has given me this company so that I can leverage that to advance the kingdom? Sign me up. I'm in. How do I? Now, of course, the next thing after that is, how do I do it? I don't know. That's where we come in. We come in and we take this model and we literally drop it into their organization. So I had 3 companies here in Tampa. That's why I'm down. This last 2 days, I meet with all their executives. And we do a whole thing through the health and wholeness and helping them become the healthiest version of themselves. We do the leadership, like we're pouring into their lives, and the response has been unbelievable. Like, in fact, one of the companies in Tampa said this. The executive said to their CEO, the owner said, "Why did you wait so long to do this with us? This is unbelievable." So there's been such an incredible response. It's like, wow, you care about us at a deeper level. So we're just seeing this really cool ground swelling and shaking in the ground with this movement.
That's amazing. And I mean, it's like so many people don't think that you can blend your faith and make money. Right. I think there's like a disparity there, but it's like you can't do it for the glory of God, right? And I think that's kind of what you're like exposing, is that that's not true.
Yeah, it's for most CEOs, it's an either or, not a both and.
Right.
And so that's why I'm, again, I get to be secular on Sunday, but I got to be I get to be sacred on Sunday. I've got to be secular on Monday. Yeah. It's like, no, you don't. There's no separation. Yeah. It's sacred. Everything I do.
That's fantastic.
And it has to start like everything. You taught me this, Matt. You talk a lot about this. There has to be mind shift. And this is a kingdom mind shift, right? You can't, Paul wrote in Romans 12:2, he said, transformation starts with the renewing of your mind. You got to get rid of old programming, replace it with new programming. That's really the secret to anything you're going to do successfully in life.
That's got to be like daily, right? I mean, daily renewal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's never a one and done.
Yeah, no, that's such a crucial piece. I think that, when you're taking that sacred component on Sunday, bringing it into the marketplace, this is something that I talked about in our small group this morning, was like, you are, regardless or not, this is what you taught me, like there's going to be an interruption to our lifestyle, right? Always. Like, good, bad, and different, like there's always going to be interrupting patterns that are naturally going to exist. But when you create that level of community and that safety of where you're spending majority of your time, right? You're then giving more trust to the employees, because you're going the top-down approach of like creating the foundation within the C-suite, right? So you're investing all into the C-suite. This is what I'm gathering, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But like investing into that C-suite, so that when, in something that you had mentioned to me that we were talking about was like, when crisis management and interruptions do exist, that there is like, hey, we're going to come alongside you, right? We're going to create and cultivate this community that's so strong and bonded that it's inevitable that like I'm not only going to feel safe when I go home or when I go to church, but I'm going to be safe when I come to work.
Yes.
Because we flipped the script on everything
Yeah.
and it made everything sacred.
Yeah.
Dude, like one of the most powerful things is creating and leveling that community. And that's ultimately what I even saw being in Elite Warriors is we're like creating and cultivating that community, right? It's the relationships that you exist that then allow you to level up, but then feel like safe that you can be vulnerable enough that when an interruption does exist, that's going to be there's a beauty in that. There's going to be so much sacredness.
Well, and think about the culture of your company. If it's like, for a lot of employees, those executives, they know they have it's performance based. You have to perform or you're not going to have your job.
Yeah.
And so the idea, the mentality is for most CEOs, for most employees, is that their CEO, their entrepreneur, their leader, that's all that he cares about. That's all that she cares about. But when you provide something like you're describing where they go, holy smokes, they see me as a person, not a number, not a producer, but they realize I'm a person. One of the things I was sharing with the executives this week, I said, I know that when you come here from your 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever your hours are, I know you have a job to do, but I also know that when you go home, you have a personal life where you got problems you have to face.
Yeah.
You have a job you have to do here and problems you have to face there. Imagine what it would look like if we had an outlet for you to bring that problem here, and we're going to help you navigate through that so that you're successful at home just as you are at work. We all know this. We're all entrepreneurs and CEOs in the room.
Yeah.
We know that the health of an organization is not predicated on KPIs and ROIs, but on the health of the individuals within the organization. You could be crushing it on your KPIs, you could be killing it in your systems, your ROIs, but if the people are not healthy, you're going to have a massive turnover rate. You're going to have incredible amounts of tension and drama within your office and by the water cooler. All of that stuff becomes an issue within the work. And so how do we shift that mindset and really help the people that are doing the work to be healthy across the board? That's really the overarching theme.
Yeah. That's huge.
awesome.
That's cool.
What are like some of the key strategies for that? I mean, what do you guys like specifically?
So first thing we do with executives, with the CEOs, is we do private mentoring. So they get if they come in, they become a sacred CEO. We create what we call the sacred boardroom, and so they enter into the sacred boardroom, and we do 2 months, 2 hours a month of private coaching. The first thing we do, I have a program called the 5 Pillars to Mental Health and Wholeness. So I'm evaluating them in the first part. By the way, it's a 12-month commitment. They come in for a year, and so I'm evaluating them. I'm helping them. We're taking them, helping them find their character assets and defects. Right? What is it about your behaviors and patterns that are leading to toxicity within your work environment or with your employees, with your wife, with your kids? Right? Let's identify those pieces. We take them through trauma work, shadow work. We do all of those things. Right? And then we offer the leadership training. How do we really fortify ourselves as strong leaders? And one of the things that we teach is that leadership is not a position. And I love what John Maxwell said. He said the best of leaders don't lead with the leveraging of money, but they can leverage volunteers, right? There's nothing to leverage. So we teach them how to increase their leadership, not by leveraging something, but by raising the level of their influence. How do you influence impact, right? So it's a lot of that stuff. Cool. And then we do in-house visits. So we go 3 to 4 times a year. We come in, do all of that. We do the exact same thing with their executives once a month. Then we provide all of the content to their employees if they need it. So we have a whole program that's called the Sacred Marriage. So you got someone walks up to you in your office and goes, "Hey Matt, just want to let you know I'm going through a divorce. My wife said she's going to file for divorce. Man, got a job to do today, but I got something for you. See me after work." You make available the Sacred Marriage content for them, and they can go through that whole thing, and then we can provide crises intervention and help. So it's a holistic approach to the entire company. The honing in, of course, you say this all the time, top down. The honing in is at the head, at the top, and then we just kind of let that, because eventually we want some of the executives within the company being able to start nurturing and doing this with their employees. I can't do that, but they can as we're raising them up. Does that make sense? Yeah. They have all the tools to do it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, one of the things that we in the Elite Warriors too, like we always say, like we're the head, not the tail, right? But that doesn't come with like this alpha mentality of like not being able to be vulnerable, right? There's this massive gap of like okay, you're the head, not the tail, but I'm going to come in with an alpha authority that just tries to dictate and manipulate everything.
Pound your chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with opening of somebody is going through a level of crisis. I may even, but hey, I'm not going to shy away from the exposure of like the pain that I'm potentially like that I'm going through. And I think that's where the nurturing piece where you create more power. And I think, that's honestly what people are looking for is just like anyone, across the board. I think they're saying like authenticity, vulnerability is like, that's the tool that people really want, that the attractiveness that it brings. And that's what ultimately the Sacred CEO is like, hey, we're going to galvanize this within environments that you're going to be spending 8 to 10 hours a day in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
Most
why
of your
wouldn't
life.
you want to be feel
Right,
confident?
right.
Like, it's huge.
Well, Jesus said, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. That word meek is not weak. It's strength under control.
That's right.
The most powerful men on the planet are the men and women, most powerful people are the men and women who know what their strengths are, but they have the self-control. They have the ability to control that strength, only let that strength out or go when it's time or when it's needed. Yeah. But at the same time, they're not afraid of vulnerability. Vulnerability is not an enemy, it's a friend.
It's a strength, yeah.
Because, again, the 3 most dangerous words a person will ever say in their life is, I've got this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But the 3 most powerful words you will say in your life is, I need some help, or I need help. And so if you're at that place where you're creating an environment, you have a culture where people can come and go, hey, I need help. And then as an entrepreneur, you go, got you covered. Like, imagine having the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It changes now you're a family. It's not just a workforce. Now we're a family. Yeah. And I don't care if you got 500 employees. We're a family here. And you hear a lot of people tout that, but that's not really true in their culture. If you get if you get embedded within their culture, there's no real family environment there. This changes that whole process.
That's amazing, man. I've never heard of anything like this, to be honest. And there's a health component too. You were telling me when you were kind of filling me in about like you take people through fasting and stuff like that, or because we talk about that all the time.
So one of the things that Matt probably has talked to you about this. We teach our guys, to get up every day and you pray 3 things: ideas, imagination, implementation. Cool. I cannot stress this enough to CEOs, because what most of us do as Type A leaders and runners, we get up, do a bunch of stuff, and then ask God to get in the middle of it and bless it. Right? And He's like, I'm not really. That's not where I was going with you. Like, I'd love to do that, but I had something totally different in mind. So get up every day and say, Father, what is it that you're blessing? And then as He brings that revelation, you're in pursuit of that. Wow. So that's part of what you just asked. Every day, ideas, imagination, implementation. God, give me favor in all things with all men. Give me the ideas, imagination, the ability to carry it out. One of the ideas that God gave me was, I want you to build out affiliates in this. And so that's where we take a guy like Matt, take you guys with Nutritious. You come in because you guys know this better than I do. A lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs are terrible when it comes to their health. They're fat asses. They're out of control with their, they can't.
He's right, yeah.
What?
Yeah,
can I say that on the show?
Of course you
can.
You can say
no, absolutely.
Whatever you want.
But I was that guy, so I'm going to tell you a story. So about the fasting deal, and this is why it matters to me. But I brought a business partner in, and he was just this was just a couple years ago. He was wildly unhealthy. And I don't just mean physically. He was unhealthy mentally. He was unhealthy spiritually, all of it. He was unhealthy, but he was also unhealthy physically. Well, when you get around somebody like that who doesn't care, you have a tendency, most of the time, not most of the time, but a lot of times, you don't bring them up to you. You sink down to the people. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's
who you
100%.
Yeah, you run with dogs, you get fleas, right? You're like the people you hang around. So I started to just sort of go down that track of just letting myself go. I wasn't working out. We were too busy to do that stuff. And I didn't notice it, I'm saying, like, you have a way to stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself and go, yeah, I look pretty good.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're a fat ass. You don't look good. And so Matt rolls up. He and his family come up, and we're out. We live on a 2,000-acre ranch in South Georgia. He rolls up, and we're all hanging out, and we're like, let's go to the river. So we go to the river, and Matt takes his shirt off, and I'm like, damn, boy. So I'm like, I got to take my shirt off and get in the river. And I mean, I had an inner tube, and I didn't even have to rent that thing. It was like there, right? Like, I was like, all of a sudden, something's off here. And so I was like, I didn't even tell him this at the time, But he was all like, he's like, let's go swim the river. And he goes down, I'm going to swim up current, which that didn't go well.
Oh, that did not go well.
But anyway, he's all full of energy and all stuff. I'm like, what happened to me, man? I was that guy. I didn't say anything at the time, but anyway, I went home that night and I was like, you gotta get your stuff in order. Like, this isn't working. So it motivated me to go on a process. And so I started watching his reels and I started his dumbbell. I got a couple dumbbells. I started going through all that stuff. And then, of course, he introduced us to nutritious. And that got me on a whole nother realm. Started doing some reading on fasting. So I'm in my 12th week now. I eat one meal a day, 5 o'clock in the evening.
Awesome.
I have a supplement called Living Fuel. It's phenomenal. All the nutritions and vitamins and everything my body needs on a daily basis. Do that at 11 o'clock.
Sweet.
And eat that one meal. Over those 12 weeks, I've dropped 26, 27 pounds. I'm almost 50. I'm starting to get my abs back. Like, all that's starting to happen again.
Yeah.
And but it's mind blowing how much different you feel. In the emotional and spiritual component, when the physical component is aligned. It's a full alignment.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we can't just get these guys healthy spiritually and emotionally and mentally. We got to get them healthy physically, and we may need to start there.
Yeah.
Like, their focus may be off, their clarity, their energy may be in the toilet because they just eat like crap or they're overweight. So that component is, Matt, you're going to be the one. We're hosting a retreat. A bunch of them next year, but he's going to come in and he's going to bring, all just for CEOs and entrepreneurs, and he's going to bring that component. Sweet. Let's talk about this, and we're going to help provide you with a way to change your lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a big piece in terms of like what we talk about on a daily basis.
The pillars,
like,
right? Like
pillars. Like, how are we? This is our kingdom right here. He gave it to us, and how are we making it the most dominant? And not because we're looking for the purposes of like we want to step into a layer of dominance because that's what God's called us into. But at the end of the day, if we aren't keeping our body in tip-top shape, we were balling last night. I ain't gonna lie, man. Like, we got this on film too. We are 9-0 up at the Julia B. Lane.
And you're the old guy.
Running them.
We're probably two of the older guys out there. Man, you more than me, but
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 32.
32, and you're 40, right? 38, yeah.
38. But it doesn't matter. We're running these 20-year-old kids.
Yeah.
But that's the reality, right? Is that they're like, dang, they were turning their heads.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be a physical representation of what God has called me into, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my temple.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you're online watching some guru sell you something, and he's got an inner tube on, he's just a big fat boy, and he's peeling an orange and sweating, you're like, I don't want to buy what you're selling.
Right.
I mean, that is the first presentation that you're giving in that. Yeah. And it's not something you worship, but it is. But I do think it matters because you're presenting yourself in front of people, and so I mean, I have a problem following somebody that can't keep their weight under control.
Yeah.
I mean, what other areas of your life are out of control? Guarantee.
Right?
A bunch.
I mean, if I took a leg off this table, it's going to fall, right? And so you got to have all those legs in place. Our 6 pillars that we talk about on the show is fuel, so like what we're putting into our body, movement, sleep. Those are more like the physical side of it. But then we got mental, so mind, purpose, and then spirit. And like, dude, if you have each one of those 6 dialed in, there's no way you can't succeed or improve yourself, right?
Yeah.
You let one of them go, it's going to leak into the others, right? It's going to start to take away from everything else.
And we all know this to be true, that it is direction, not intention, that leads to destination. Mm-hmm. And the problem with most people is that they have good intention, but they don't have the right direction.
Yeah.
So if we're in Tampa and I tell everybody I'm going to make a trip to New York City, and I put all of my stuff in my car and I get ready for New York City and I get my clothes and everything, but I go south on 75, I ain't ending up in New York City. Yeah. I'm ending up in South Miami. Yeah. So, the direction, I'm not saying intention or intentionality doesn't matter. It does. That's a key component.
Yeah.
But it doesn't start with intentionality. I can sit 10 fat CEOs in a room and they all have an intention to look better or to be better, right? But if somebody's not providing them with right direction, by the way, part of that direction is their board of advisors. Who do you have around you speaking into you that's saying, hey, man, you need to lose some weight, bro?
Yeah.
Hey, man, you're emotionally not stable. You got a lot of anger, bro. We need to talk. Like, how important is that component in our lives? holding. You were telling me a story about a big CEO that you were talking to. He's a up and up guy or whatever, and you were like, "Hey man, who do you have holding you accountable?" And he was like, "Me. I hold myself accountable. I don't need anybody hold me accountable. I hold myself accountable." And you're like, "Okay, let me know how that works out for you." You know, like you have to have people around that are willing to speak into your life and call you out.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Like, it is so important. That's imperative, dude. That story that I told him. I mean, this is a high level guy right now that I was talking to. I went to an event in Jacksonville, and I had asked him that, and it was like more just, hey, like I want to engage in conversation, and we were talking about therapeutic peptides and working out. He's like looking good, but when he gave me that answer, bro, I was like, I want to be like 1,000 feet from this guy.
Yes.
Like this guy. I'm not going to put this on him to burn, but I was like, at the end of the day, that ain't going to be me. I was like, I need accountability in my life. Like, I need a board of directors. I need that board of advisors that's going to, like, say, hey, checkmate. Like,
checkmate.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Let's figure this out.
I tell people all the time, I can't go over my head without adult supervision. I got to have somebody up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's walk through that.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Let's walk. I've taken the train off the track so many times. I've got to have those people. So in my world, it's like, hey, I feel like this is a good move. Can you confirm this in your prayer time? Can you confirm this in your spirit? Can you confirm, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think the timing's right on that. I would slow down. By the way, if you're married, your wife is a number one key component to that. Like running things by your wife, your spouse, and saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And letting them speak into that.
Yeah.
I was just saying that yesterday we were pitching, and it was at a network, a Christian television network. Some amazing guys there, by the way. And went over there, and I was like, you know what? I was talking to my wife, and I was telling, like, in conversation with the pitch, and I was like, you know, sometimes the Father, I feel like, tells me something, and then I'm like, you know, I'm just going to double check that with my wife because she might hear something different, right? And so there was even a case in point where I asked her, I was like, man, you know, God closed that door. She's like, but was that a door that was even open? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Did you even ask me?
Right.
Like, we did pray through that together, and was that a door that was even open?
Yeah.
And so, like, there's some times where I'm like, I don't know. I think I kicked that door open.
Oh, yeah. Or God will tell you something. He'll reveal something to you in your prayer time, you know, your quiet time. He'll reveal something to you, and you think that's the whole revelation, and you don't ever come back and check back in, and you just start running, right? And it's like, hey, bro, slow down. Like, you got way ahead of me. I got a whole bunch of other things to reveal. Because if God revealed it all at once, our brains would explode. So it's that constant check back in, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is so good. That's so good.
That reminds me of like something I heard, and it's like he gives you enough light so you can see a couple feet ahead of you, but he's not illuminating your entire path.
Right.
You got to rely on him for that light to take those next steps.
Yeah, in fact, he says, Proverbs says, your word is a light, or maybe it's Psalms, but your word is a light to my path, or light to my
lamp
feet.
unto my feet.
The lamp unto my feet. So it's one of those, it's like, he's lighting just where your feet are going. That illumination is mostly revealed when you're looking back. You're like, oh, I look back and go, that makes sense. That's why he did that. Because what you're seeing through the windshield, he's always seeing through the rearview mirror, right? And so when you get to that, you know, through that thing or the other side of that thing, you look back and go, oh man, that sucked back there, but makes sense now. I know what it did for me now, right? And that's such an important way to look at things.
That was good.
Like whatever difficulties ahead, you don't know, right? Because you can't see it. He might be taking you through some hardships, man. He's taking you through the thorns, the rocks, whatever it might be. You know, but that's where
you know
the
what I've
faith
learned about
component
this, that whole narrative is that if you go back to the Bible, and you can count on one hand how many times God led them around something to avoid hardship. Yeah. Most of the time, he made them go through the most difficult things you could imagine. He said to Joshua, I'm camping out in the book of Joshua right now, and Joshua, he was like, hey, you got to go into the land of Canaan. It's your land. Yeah. But you got to fight them. Yeah. You're going to, you know, there's going to be some loss. There's going to be some pain. You're going to be tired. You're going to get scared. You're going to have to run back to the crying rock when you're by yourself, pour your heart out to me, get courage, and run back to the battle. But that's where we find God the most. That's where we see him. That's where we get to see him work look, God does for me what I can't do for myself, but I got to do for myself what I can. And so when I'm in the middle of that thing doing it, and I'm working away and I'm doing my part, that's where the supernatural starts to happen. But you don't see that. But if it's cush, if everything's cush, God, like, I got this.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So if somebody's going through something right now and it's like, I don't think I can get to the other side of this, that's the place where God wants you. He goes, you can't, but I can. I've been there. I've done that. And you just got to trust my lead on this.
That's powerful.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And the narrative of like, that's what I truly enjoy about putting myself into a layer of discomfort. You know, we're talking about cold plunges, we're talking about working out, that like in that abiding process, I consider that I'm abiding when I'm working out, when I'm putting heavy strain against my muscles, because God, like that's intentional discomfort, right? Mm-hmm. And the reality is I'm going to be interrupted and there's going to be discomfort along the way. And I got to be so intentionally present with that, because the Father's in the midst of that too. He's in the midst of me working out, straining, trying to get my muscles a little bit bigger for his temple.
Yes.
But then I'm going to get hit with resistance. I'm also going to get hit in the good, right? Things are going really, really well. I'm like, man, but he's also in that presence, and that like, he wants to be present when it's good, but he also wants to be present when it's bad, right?
And you have to live in that mindset, because most people operate in a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. And so when things are tough, it's like, I deserve this. You know, God's not going to get me out of this. I'm going to be crushed by scarcity mindset. When things are going well, it's like, I'm going to lose this. If I don't protect it, if I don't hold tight on this, it's going to go away. You know, we're always operating in that scarcity mindset. And it's like, if I really believe that I'm a son or daughter of the kingdom, that it's not about me, but it's about the God in me, and I'm optimizing and operating not in my power, but his power, there is literally nothing that you're going to face or go through. It doesn't matter how much resistance is there. You are going to see it through. If not, you die. If you die, you go to heaven. Great. Yeah. That's a bad trade-off, right? But
I'm good.
But the point is that it's really about it's your perspective and everything that you're going through and walking through, and how you choose to see it.
Yeah, no, it's
a key word is choice. Right?
Yeah.
Choice. You can choose, right?
Yeah.
Like it's emotion, right? How you respond to things. It is choice for sure.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think in this country we do a great job of like teaching kids that at a young age. Mm-hmm. It's like very reactionary. And a lot of that's probably the way our parents were too. Yeah. But yeah, being able to like take a second. How do I want to respond to this, right?
So true.
And dude, with 2 young boys, they're almost 3, they're twins, right? There's a lot of that. Like, I got to catch my breath. All right, how am I gonna respond to this situation right now? And you know, sometimes I want to get angry, I want to yell at them, but what's that gonna do to them, right? Then they're gonna learn that pattern, and now we're just fostering that. So I agree.
That's so
honestly
good.
That's why we have sleep as a pillar, because you know, in I truly believe this, and I know people say like, hey, I'm a night owl. We talked about the circadian rhythm and how, but that you can manipulate that, right? You can manipulate your circadian rhythm.
For sure.
And I truly believe that if you start setting a bedtime and getting up in the morning, preparing yourself for God's voice to be present in that moment, and preparing your heart that way, that your reaction to your circumstances of how you're going to parent your children or how you're going to treat your wife is directly associated to how you're going to move through that day, right? I'm going in with the intention to dominate that day.
Yes.
In my marriage, in the way I parent my kids, the way I run my business, and so in the way I approach my health, like all those things. But that's why we have that as a pillar, because we are preparing, right? We're preparing to win. That's what we prepare for, right? Yeah. And so all these things, that's why it's so important to be like, hey, God moves, and he moves in the morning. Yeah, we're going to have some days where we lack sleep, but I'll tell you the truth, like we can't have majority of days where we lack sleep, because God, this is what Ed even said. He's like, hey, are you guys, he said this probably like maybe a year and a half ago, but he's like, are you guys praying for divine intervention in your sleep? Like, make sure your sleep is optimized, because he'll talk to you in your sleep.
Dude, I remember that retreat, dude. That was a jaw dropper. I'm like, holy smokes, man, that is brilliant. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the sleep thing too, you got to know your body. Like I've always been a 4-hour, 5-hour guy. I was a teenager, and I optimized pretty well on that. The older I get, it's not that so much, but I was finding out that I needed to go to bed earlier, because the best sleep I'm getting now, I do this now, is 8, 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's like my hardest, strongest sleep, because I'm up at 3 o'clock most days, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's where I start my reading and doing all that stuff. But I've already had a great amount of sleep, and I'm like you just said, I'm going in knowing what my day looks like, because I know who I am now. I know what my rhythm, my cadence looks like. And so that point is so vitally important. You've got to be honest with yourself, give yourself permission to evaluate these things. I love your scorecard thing that you do. That's huge, dude. But I do it at the end of every day. It's like a moral inventory. Did I steward my platforms with excellence today? A husband, a father, a CEO, a leader, an influencer, whatever. And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, well, what have I got to do differently tomorrow to get a 1% shift in that? So every night, 9 o'clock, my alarm goes off. Take your inventory.
Inventory, man. That's
it's a moral inventory. Yep.
And quick plug, the Full Fuel Scorecard. If you want access to this, subscribe to our channel. Send your email, and we'll give you a free copy of the month.
Yeah, I love that. You've been working on that. The thing's dope.
Came out good.
We're gonna have it as a.
We need to get that on the sacred boardroom. That's one of the things I want these guys to, what I want them to get access to with your.
We basically took what you started and then put it into a 30-day journal. We obviously put the logo on it, made it look real cool, but then it's something you can either print or have digital copy of, and we're just giving it out for free. We're not trying to make money on this. It's
you're not monetizing this. It's just help people.
No, yeah,
That's
help
right.
people.
It just helps.
It just gives proper reflection. Exactly what you're saying. Unless you expose it and articulate it out of your mouth and write it down, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
100%.
That's great.
Yeah. Those things do not exist. But hey, man, how do you? So this is a kind of shifting, but I would like to. This is so imperative for an entrepreneur. So we're talking now to just strictly to the entrepreneur. But you and Trish, you have two young kids. You got 2 older kids. The lifestyle, you're traveling a little bit more now. How are you balancing that?
So we have husbands and wives, and I don't care if you're CEO or not. I think this is important for husbands and wives. We say this all the time that unrealistic expectations are premeditated resentments and become future failures, right? We're setting people up for failure. And so we sit down and we have conversations. We say, what are our expectations or the boundaries going to be in our relationship? So she's running a gigantic cattle farm, a beef business. So she's running in one lane. I'm running the Sacred CEO and all this. I'm traveling in different places now. By the way, I have clients from Florida out to California, and so there's different time zones and all that. So we sat down and we were intentional about a conversation of what our boundaries were going to look like. So one of the things that we said is we're going to shut everything off at 5:30. So there's no working going on beyond that time.
Awesome.
Like our kids deserve us at that time. Like we have to work, so we'll get. Now, by the way, I can start at 4 a.m. if I want to.
Yeah, everyone's asleep.
She said it. She's like, I don't care when you start. It doesn't matter to me. Get up 4 a.m. Get up 3. I don't care. But at 5:30, we're turning it off. And then weekends, we turn it off. If we go to church together, or if we're doing church at home, or we're going on a trip, we're doing something. We're doing those things together. So what we did is when you sit down with your spouse, you sit down with your significant other, and you have a conversation, and you both agree to that expectation. Well, then you get to hold each other accountable to what you agreed to. And so we had that conversation. We both agreed, which means our respect for each other is we're going to do this because I told you that I would. Yeah. And so the expectation and the consequence of the violation of that is what holds us accountable. And so that's how we balance it. It's let's lay out the conversation. Let's lay out what we're going to do, the game plan, and we're going to follow it. We're going to stick to it. Now, there's times, I'm going to tell you. Now, I have some one-offs. I have somebody like in California, says, hey, I can't meet today. Can you meet at this time? Hey, Trish, are you okay with this? Yeah, okay. There's always going to be one-offs. Like we may host a live event at night, after the kids go to bed, whatever. That's how we do it. So balance doesn't come by just saying, hey, I'm going to be a balanced CEO. I'm going to be a balanced entrepreneur. That's not how it works. There has to be a plan, and you gotta be willing to stick to it and follow it. So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. You guys sound like you are super busy. And do you live?
Yeah, we live on the farm.
On the farm.
Yeah,
that's cool.
One of the things that I'm doing too that's going to start changing the game is, I work out of my home office there, but outside of the other traveling, it looks like I'm going to be flying out to Phoenix once a month and being out in that area for a few days every month, and I'm starting some really big networks in the Jacksonville area too, which is going to bring me out of that. So again, there's always going to be something to do, right? Yeah. And you just got to be intentional. But I want to say something else too. I think this is important, and I know the theme of this podcast, this show, is not just for entrepreneurs and CEOs, but it seems like it's kind of gone this way today. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that we touch on something. CEOs and entrepreneurs that are building successful companies, they're doing so because they're good at it. Like they were hardwired for this. Like there's this intrinsic thing inside of them that just empowers them to leadership. Well, what do we have a tendency to do as human beings? Put all of our focus and attention on the things that we're good at. I sit in front of these guys and they're like, Doc, I don't get this. I got a company of 200 employees, and we got a machine moving, but I can't lead my wife and my kids. My family's falling. Like, I don't understand. Well, it may be because you're trying to treat your family like you treat your company. It may be that you've not learned how to create a clear line between those things, and you're putting all your time and energy and talent into building this, and that is good, and you're using what is good there to mask what is bad over here. And so I think a big start for this for anybody is to just look at what is causing you the most tension in your life. What's causing the most anxiety? What's causing the most pain? The pain point becomes the change point at some point. I don't want it to be because it took me out. I want to be preemptive. I want to look at this and say, so Trish and I ask this question often. I'll say, hey, are you happy? How happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you happy with me? On a scale of 1 to 10, are you happy with where we're honest. Like, I would be honest with you. I'm struggling. Like I'm struggling with community, or I feel like we're disconnected, right? We're always running that through some sort of a litmus test, because I don't want to fall asleep on the things that matter the most and wake up one day and go, hey, I want to let you know I filed for divorce. 81% of the divorces in America right now are being filed by women, and they have planned it on average between 1 and 2 years. So it's not like you woke up one day and was like, oh, I'm getting a divorce. No, it's been in the works. Something has been off course for a long time, and it finally imploded. Right. And so we have to be willing to look at these things, be rigorously honest about what is right or working, what isn't right or isn't working, and what isn't working. What are we going to do to make changes? But most people are afraid to do that. Yeah. They're afraid of the conflict or what it's going to come out of it. But, Jordan Peterson says it all the time, conflict delayed is conflict magnified. Whether it's your health, your marriage, doesn't matter. If you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of this routinely, like if you had to evaluate like the end of your life, right? If so, whenever that might be, right? So it could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 15, it could be when you're 90, it could be when you're 110. Who knows? Like how long you're going to live. That's in God's hands. But the reality is like, what do I want that to look like? And so then I have to evaluate. Do I want, so in reproduction is a big thing. So like reproduction with my kids, okay, I have kids now, 7, 6, and 4. We all have young kids. So then it becomes, all right, do I see myself, and they don't have to be separated. Like you can have abundance in both. But they're in, and I think God will intentionally bless those. But if I had to determine my level of success and I had to get to the end of my life, and I said, my kids are my age now, 30s, what do I want that to look like? Do I want their life to where I didn't model a relationship with my wife so well that they found a mate and they found their friends because of how I modeled my relationship with my wife, right? Where they were able to have a life beyond expectations, abundant, because of how I modeled and how I treated Kelly, right? And so like they were then able to make a better choice. We were talking about this earlier. They were able to make a better choice because they set the standard that Dad set. Right. I set the standard of how I treated Kelly in our relationship in our household, and I galvanized that so much and protected the peace. That's something you always say, like protected your peace at all cost. At all cost. And there was actually a story that you told me at one time where you actually had to make the decision and protect the peace of your household so much that you had to tell your daughter she had to leave, right? So you had to tell your daughter to leave. A teenage daughter be like, hey, like you're disrupting the peace of my household. This is my household. Yeah. You're going to have to learn it the hard way. You're going to have to leave. Yeah. Because I got to protect I got other people to look after, and I got to protect that peace, right? It's tough, yeah. And how massive probably that has been for your relationship on the other side.
She's a rock star today. I'll tell you, she hated my guts at the time, but 4 years later, she was 16 at the time. It was 20. We were doing a Father's Day celebration. We went out back. We were hanging out on the patio. I was having a cigar, and she said, "Hey, Daddy, can I tell you something?" She said, that was the hardest thing that I ever walked through with you 4 years ago. She said, but you were 100% right. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And, you know, we have a statement that we use. It's called living principle over personality. But if you evaluate your life, 99% of the things that go wrong in your life is because you chose the personality over the principle, whether it's someone else's or your own. And by the personality, we mean the emotions and the codependent, all the things that come with that. But when you learn to live your life by principle, and principle is dictating what you do, it changes everything. You know, Matt, you just hit something that is so. I don't think parents realize how important this is. I can tell you, I know I didn't. And it's something that I have learned even through my, through education, studying, and the things that I do now. But there's a psychological matrix or a continuum that's called the unfolding molding continuum. From the ages of 0 to 6, a child is what is in the stages of what's called conscious assimilation. They're observing their environments. But at 6 or 7 years old on, it's called conscious adaptation. And that's when they begin to adapt to their environments. And so in this continuum of the unfolding and molding, the unfolding side of the continuum psychologically is they have a temperament and a personality, and as they grow up, it's going to be unfolding throughout their life. On the molding side of that continuum, they have a sociological construct, an environment that's going to play into what that looks like. And so they are, who they've been created to be. But I have to understand that the environments that I'm building and constructing and the framework that I'm building as a dad or as someone's building as a mom is going to impact significantly what the molding side, what that child is going to look like when they become an adult. So think of it this way. If you'll notice in your parenting, some of the things you do today are the things you hated the most about your own dad or mom.
100%.
And why is that? Because your conscience began to adapt. You became those things, right? And so now this doesn't mean you're going to always get it right as a parent, but I can tell you what, I take my parenting and how Trish and I behave and act. Our kids never see us fight. We never fight with each other, Trish and I. We're never disrespectful. There's never insinuation. There's never insults, character assassination. We never do that. But our kids, we bring our kids in the middle of everything that is difficult. Because we want them to see you're going to face hard times. I'm not protecting you from the craziness of the world and the hardship of the world. I'm going to show you how to get through it with health and wholeness, with emotional stability, with logic. Not, emotions high, logic is low. We're going to show you how to get through these things. And so we got one of our very best friends in the world is being diagnosed with lung cancer, and I don't know what the future holds. I know what I want God to do, but I don't know what the future. This has been heavy on all of us that love Him, our family. Matt, it's been heavy on all of us. We every night bring our kids into the middle of that story, and we have our kids get on their knees and pray for Uncle Ed every single night. Death to cancer, life to his body, air of God in his lungs. And then I'll say, girls, do you, Isaac, November, do you believe that God can heal? Yes. What am I doing? I'm creating a framework of you're going to face difficult things in life, but you don't ever have to face it alone. Yeah. So we have to understand our job as parents. It's not just about us. Our jobs as CEOs, as leaders, influencers, impactors. It's not just about us or us looking good. It's about the legacy that we are leaving and the legacy that we are building.
That's right, man. We talk about that all the time with like the general health or generational health, generational wealth. These are like things we're trying to leave behind, and
not generational curses.
That's right, and you have to break that at some point because, like you said, man, like the way you were parented will just naturally be how you parent unless you make a decision to not do it that way. It has to be conscious, you have to be aware of it.
We're the sum total of our past experiences, circumstances, and sociological constructs. That's it.
That's right.
That's why you have a God of your understanding, you have a God of your understanding, I have a God of my understanding. And so our impact matters because we're forming that future citizen, that future husband, that future wife. That's part of what our calling is, which is why I say to parents all the time, and specifically CEOs and entrepreneurs, stop cheating on your family with your work. You're committing adultery. No, I'm not. I don't have another woman. No, but you got to work, and that gets all your time, energy, talent, intimacy. It's all there. Right? Your family deserves more than that.
There's a component to that where it's healthy. So like I'm taking the devil's advocate on the shift side because I think there's an abundance in both areas, right? But what it comes out is a level of expectations. So you said you had sat down with Trish, and there are seasons. There's seasonalities to that as far as expectations. Hey, we're stepping into a busy season. And there's going to be some actually loss here where I'm going to have to step away or I'm going to have to do some things. But expectations are so critical because I go back to the Think and Grow Rich philosophy where you intentionally have to go into discomfort sometimes, right? And so in business, you have to intentionally go into that level of discomfort where I'm gonna miss out with my family a little bit here. Where I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be doing these things, and there's going to be a season where there's going to be some intentionality, but then it's prioritizing that schedule of how you're also bringing them in along the way, right?
So good,
because at the end of the day, this is something that I always think about. I am chasing something, right? I'm chasing a feeling, right? I want more of something, a feeling. What's that feeling? Like I have to really associate, like what feeling is this giving me? And not all the time am I like, man, this is a healthy feeling, right? Because when you know you're walking into in really direct linear with the spirit all the time. We were talking about that this morning, like linear with the spirit, is that there is, even in that discomfort, hey, I have to, my family is a sacrifice for a very brief period of time, right? Because I'm doing these things, right? The expectations have been set. I'm stepping into that. But I know absolutely without a shadow of doubt, God's called me into that season, right?
Yeah.
God's called me into that season, but I also let that be known to my wife and my kids, is that there's a season, but I'm going to bring you along as much as I can. Like I literally bring them along through the process. I want you to come through the journey. I want you to step into that difficulty with me so that we can journey through this together, right? And so I'm going to be honest with you, Nutritious, starting up a company like that right off the ground, man, there been a lot of sacrifice, right? On the backside of that. But I always check in with my wife. You have that check-in, right? That check-in. Hey, are we still progressing? You still all right? You still happy? Because if we're not, we can detour this whole thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know is God still calling us in this direction, right? And that constant check-in of like, am I still linear, right?
And how many times has Kelly, you felt like you were going to quit and Kelly spoke into it and said, oh, no, we're not, baby. I'm here with you. And you know what I mean? Like,
that's huge.
All the time. Like, I mean, literally all the time. Like
there's nothing better than
so
that,
much
than having that level of
discernment,
support.
right?
That communication is so important because you could be thinking in your head, oh, she's probably upset that I'm missing this because I'm working on this. And you're playing this whole reel in your head and she doesn't feel that way at all.
Right.
But unless you ask her and you check in,
That's
like
it.
you said,
That's 100%.
we're projecting our thoughts into other people, you know?
That's
100%.
exactly right.
Yeah,
That's it
that's
right
it.
there. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, you know what the number one cause to divorce is? I mean, if you look up the data, it's going to say infidelity or finances. It's none of those things. It begins with the breakdown of communication.
Yeah.
We stopped communicating. Or nobody ever taught us how to really communicate. We don't know how to talk about the difficult things. We just suppress, becomes resentment.
Yeah.
And then, boom, all of a sudden. What I hate about divorce is that, if you read the papers, it says irreconcilable differences. Basically, we were just two prize fighters that beat the crap out of each other. We gave up. You know what I mean? Like, but when you learn how to really have those healthy conversations, to go into healthy confrontation, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
These guys have really good conversations though too on the farm. You know,
Uh-oh.
Oh, he's laughing hard. This is it.
You're like, let's go have a conversation in my lederhosen.
In the what?
In your lederhosen, over on the St. Mary's River, beating off mosquitoes. You know what I mean?
Bro. So some of the
That's
conversation
grueling.
is, do we need to get out in the woods and get a little frisky out in the woods? Sometimes that animal nature just started, that primal thing started rising up, and you're like,
This guy's first child. It was in November.
November.
It was November.
Oh yeah.
This guy was horny as a friggin' horn dog. Like,
Well, I was that, but I had a bunch of people at the house. It was during the Hurricane Irma or something, and everybody converged at the farm. And I'm like, babe, I want to get down, but we can't do that. And like, there's 40 people in this little house. So she's like, well, what do you think? And I said, I'm thinking we should go out in the woods, man. We got 2,000 acres. Let's just get it on out in the woods.
Plenty of space, yeah.
So I get in the truck. We drive out there. I'm in the back. I'm one of those guys. I can't scrog with my clothes on. So I'm just in boots going to town, covered in mosquitoes. So I was pumping and swiping.
You're telling me this is how your daughter was conceived?
Yes. I mean,
This is
just
awesome
covered.
story.
I got mosquitoes.
Epic story.
I'm covered in malaria, and she's being conceived.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, the thing you do on the farm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's how they have fun. That's
I gotta
how
see
they
this farm.
scrog on the farm apparently.
Yeah. Scrog on the farm looks way different than it does in the city. You go to jail for stuff like that down here. Like if you don't do it, there's something's wrong with you.
That's right.
Then I find out we got game cams everywhere. So I drove back. I'm like searching the whole area to make sure there was no game cams where I was.
Oh my god.
What?
You wanted a highlight reel?
There's
hold
a
of
guy
that.
in the canoe.
Oh no, that was another time.
Oh.
When Trish and I first got married, I convinced her. We have 4 miles of this white sand beach on this St. Mary's River,
it
and
is
it's in the middle of nothing.
Clear water.
Yeah, I have been down to that river for 10, 8 years, 5 years.
Man.
We get married. I convince her, hey, let's go down the beach. Let's just have a romantic time out there. We'll eat a little, food and do a little scrogging. She's like, what if somebody comes by and goes, nobody ever is on this river, Trish. I said, there's no passage. Trees fall over. So we're just in the middle of throwing down like teenagers. And all of a sudden, his I look up and he goes, his canoe is high. And he goes, hey, how's it going? I go, how's it going? I didn't know what to do.
You acknowledged it?
I mean, bro, I
Oh
was
my
in
God.
just full shame. Trish rolls and dives behind a tree. Like,
Oh my god.
he knew. I could see the look on his face. He had that look of, sorry to interrupt you, but damn, boy, that's awesome. Like, he had that look,
Yeah.
And he,
It's a little head nod. Just
yeah. He's like, how you doing? I go, good. How you doing?
better than you.
But bro, it ain't like he's in a boat with a motor. You can only go so fast in a river.
right.
He just it felt like an eternity.
Can you paddle faster, buddy?
Yeah. So I was kind of sitting there watching him as he goes. Just kept waving a couple.
Oh my god.
I don't know what to do with this.
I don't know.
Dude peeks back on his way past.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
That is
Yeah.
funny, man.
Trish is
Oh,
like,
gosh.
she goes, I'm going to kill you. Like,
She's gonna kill me for bringing that up. That story.
No, she loves that story.
Epic.
she's like, you promised me.
That is so good.
She doesn't trust me anymore when it comes to that stuff. So I've ruined that.
No more scrogging by the
Oh
way.
no, the trust factor just ended. I don't know that I can ever gain that back.
Just done, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This man lives full fueled, bro. I can just
he
feel
lives
it.
so
man.
full
And,
fueled.
dude, that's obviously the name of our show. That's what we talk
Yeah.
about, bro. It's like the 6 pillars. If you're dialed in, you are fully fueled, right?
I love that.
Man, answer this question for me, just because we always ask, what does that mean to you to live your life full fueled and to, I know that's something you're gonna pass on to your kids, but yeah. elaborate on that.
Honestly, it's being in alignment spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Everything has to be in alignment. And I have learned, I'll be 50 this year, I have learned that if something's off emotionally, it's going to throw the cadence off of everything else. So you imagine a band playing, you got everybody that's got their music and sheet notes, and they're playing and they're in rhythm and harmony, but somebody didn't practice and they're, they're hitting, they're fly, it throws everybody in the room off. And so the full fuel meaning to me is that, by the way, this is important, I think, to this context, is that I make decisions sometimes that appear to be selfish. And people say, well, that's kind of selfish. And I'll say, no, it's not selfish. It's self-full. I'm fully aware of what it takes for me to be in alignment, and you're an interruption to that.
Wow.
Or that's an interruption to that. And
love
so
that.
full fuel is I'm fully aware.
Awesome.
And I'm going to do whatever I've got to do to stay in alignment in all things.
That's amazing. That was a great answer.
Dude, that might have been one of the best answers. Gosh, I love it. Love you, brother.
Love you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Love
much
the
for
show.
coming on the show today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
thanks for coming on.
I watch it, see it every day, and it's great to be here.
Love it. Live fulfilled. Live beyond limits, baby.